Welcome into episode 557, episode 2 of the day, Bridget and Scott. And we come to you all because at about 4:20, 25-ish.
420, nice.
Nice. The Boston Bruins announced that they have signed James Hagens to his entry-level contract. So Scott's hunch from this morning was accurate. Way to go, Scott. Mystic Math.
Woohoo! I win.
Now, can I ask you, will I find love?
Yeah, Bridget, of course. Of course. Of course.
What else do you see in the crystal ball? Because
let me shake my magic 8-ball.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of commenters saying that you could too, Bridget.
I know.
If you respond to them.
So it says future is unclear.
Okay. Well, that actually is what I was feeling too. So maybe Scott's just making this up, I'm thinking. But surprise podcast, guys. Do we want to do quick opening shifts? Because I have one. I have
No.
one. No? Yes. Here's mine. Boston Twitter today is just undefeated. I mean, this is an all-time Boston Twitter day, I believe. Now that the Hagens news comes out, I mean, it has been all over the place. Sports news. It's mostly been drama, and it's just the internet is having a day. So that's my opening shift.
Are you referring to a certain Boston head coach?
Maybe we should be more specific because there's a few new head coach. You know what? Everybody knows what we're talking about. But yeah, undefeated day for the internet.
Well, can I give my opening shift?
Yeah.
I'm happy as a pig in shit right now. I am so pumped that the Bruins actually went through with this. I'm surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised, but surprised nonetheless, just because I think that the argument that a faction of Bruins fans had about don't rush him, let him play the year in prop. Like, I understood the argument. As we said this morning, and we've said multiple times, none of us think that would have hurt his development. It just came down to, for me, listen, all of the stars are aligning here where he has the talent and the hockey IQ to continue his development at the next level while simultaneously helping a Bruins team that needs a spark. And I'm glad that they actually went through with it and that there was a lack of stubbornness.
Yeah, I think I was always a little more, especially recently, a little more optimistic than you guys that we would see him at some point this season. And that's because I genuinely don't think the Bruins' goal or desire at any point was just to bury him in Providence for the year. Like, I think they wanted to see him prove himself, like that they weren't just going to hand him anything. But I think if you gave Don Sweeney truth serum the moment he signed Hagens to an ATO and sent him to Providence, I think what he would have said is, we hope to see him in Boston before this season is over. And that, my feeling on that was never, like, I'm not trying to carry water for Don Sweeney or anything. I just genuinely think that was what all parties wanted. But I understand the skepticism. Like, I got it all along. And honestly, I had my own questions about whether Hagens had done enough in Providence. I think he looked good, but he wasn't dominant. And I wondered if that would give them any pause. But the way they've had this revolving door on the third line, to me, made it just about a no-brainer. That didn't, I can't say I was 100% confident it was going to happen, but I just don't know how they could really look at where they are, having a lineup that is not set with 3 games left in the season, and sit there and think to themselves, yeah, we're still not ready to call Hagens up. Like, I just think they owed it to themselves to do this and give him a shot and see if he can help.
Yeah, and we talked about it, I mean, at length, how many podcasts in a row, but even today was kind of like we're all on board. That's why I made this trusty little graphic that we don't need anymore, because it's happened. So it worked, we'll say, it worked. Hagens call up corner. Officially.
I was texting with someone earlier, and they said Don Sweeney saw that graphic on our podcast and was like, I'll call up Hagens.
Oh, that's what I should do. Oh man, yeah. And maybe he saw the tweet that Brian was saying last night that I said, the stat line of Alex Steves and the, Reichel scratch and Acemont scratch. And I said, bring up Hagens. And he was like, we're going to do that.
The tweet heard around the world.
Unquestionably, Bridget's fingerprints are all over this.
All over it.
I think you should tell that to James tomorrow at practice.
I will.
Okay.
I will. I'll be like, you're welcome. That's the first thing I'm going to say. But no, so I do think that a lot of the conversations that we had in the discourse that we've seen online on this topic pre-call up was a lot of frustration because of the way that press conference went. And those answers they lacked, and to me as well, like they lacked information. They lacked a pathway, like talking about a pathway. It was never like, oh, we hope he's involved. Like there wasn't, those things weren't said, right? Like there wasn't like, oh, if he just proves himself. Like the wording of everything was much more like, this is where he's going to start. Like there was no timeline given. There was no, like, there could have been more said that would have made people more comfortable that he's going to, they want him there, right? It just didn't feel like necessarily that's what the organization wanted because of the answers that came that day. And ever since then, the skepticism has been there from everyone, which is, it's based off of the only information that the organization had put out, which was Don Sweeney talking that the day after he signed the ATO. So it's far, we all thought that he had a pathway here, but it would have been nice to hear definitively like, hey, yeah, if it just takes a few games, then it just takes a few games. If it takes longer, it takes longer. But that wasn't what was said. So it's not surprising that the discourse online was frustration and confusion. And it's led to a lot of the conversations that we've had on the podcast. So now we can finally stop. No more polls. Should the Bruins call up Hagens now? Like, no more. We're done. And now the conversation is, it is going to be, is it too soon? Was it too soon? Or he does really well the first game. It's go on the first line.
I'm gonna post that poll right now. Hold on.
Is it too soon because he won't be zipping around on PP1 with Patrick Brown for 2 months against Charlotte? Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So let me ask you guys this question. Now that we know he signed the ELC, what lines do you anticipate in practice tomorrow, or what would you like to see? You have any thoughts on that?
So I think what I would like to see and what I expect to see are the same thing, because I'm keeping Pasternak, Geeky, and Lindholm together after a pretty strong showing in Carolina. Some recaptured magic for Pasternak and Geeky. I think that is worth riding out, hopefully all the ways into the playoffs. Not touching the second line. Been consistent all year. So you put him on the third line with Fraser Minton and Marat Husnudinov. And that is a young line, but an exciting line. And one that I think will play the right way. Like, Fraser Minton is very responsible defensively. Husnudinov is good defensively. He's a hound. He's all over pucks. I think playing with both of those guys can benefit Hagens. Like, I can see that being a fit, and I see that being a good place to start him.
You know what's interesting about that line? First of all, it's a true kids line because all of them are, how old is Marat? He's 23. So they're all 23 or under, right? Everybody's young. Like they're an actual kids line. You want to know what else I like about this line? It's that this line would not have been possible without last year's trade deadline sell. Every single piece of that line would have strong connections to the decisions made at last trade deadline. You get Marat Husnudinov in the Brazo deal. You get Fraser Minton from Toronto, and you get the 7th round pick because you tanked. So like all of it is related. These are all three things that you wouldn't have had last year if things didn't go as poorly as they did to the point they had to sell and they were drafting this high. So I just think that's an interesting thing I wanted to bring up with those three pieces in particular. And I think that they all have been valuable to Boston so far, meaning Murat and Mitten. Obviously, Hagens has not played yet, but those pieces have already shown their value and could be these really, bright spots. Maybe they all come up together, right? We don't know how long Husnudinov is going to be here, but it seems like Mitten is a long-term pillar. It seems like we know Hagens is going to be a long-term pillar. So this is kind of an exciting line. And then we can get into what they might be able to do on the ice, X's and O's, but just in general, talking about their background, I think is interesting too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, looking beyond David Pastrnak up front, like beyond his career. So maybe what's that? Like another maybe 7, 8 seasons, 10 seasons at most. He's already had how many seasons, right? Like beyond his career, you can see certain names that are that next young core forwards. And there's still some to come, right? Future drafts and whatnot. But you look at James Hagens, you look at Fraser Minton, you look at Will Zellers at North Dakota, Dean Letourneau, those four. I think Murat Husnudinov, who knows long term, but intermediate term, I think at 23 years old, he's definitely a Swiss Army knife that you can see part of your forward group for years to come. Like it's very encouraging to see. We're talking about a Bruins team that you haven't had that wave of young forward talent that can kind of come up together institutionally. So it's still a process. We're talking about James Hagens right now, but I think over the next calendar 12 to 24 months, I think we're talking about, okay, how is Will Zellers looking in Providence? How is Dean Letourneau looking in Providence? Are they ready to make that jump and join a Fraser Minton who's now 2 or 3 years into his career? Same with Husnudinov and a Hagens who will be a year plus into his career. So these are all encouraging things. And of course, I'm talking the intermediate future, of course, still has Pastrnak and all those guys and Geeky and stuff. But as far as long-term, it's still encouraging to see that long-term, you're seeing some foundational pieces that'll be here for even beyond your current core, I would say, veteran core, which is great. That's great to know.
Yeah, it is. And, in like the immediate short term, the here and now, we talked about on Monday's podcast how this team seemed like they kind of needed some sort of energy injection. Now they played better-ish in Carolina. They at least scored more, and they get that game to overtime against a good team. But the post-game interviews were still, Pastrnak was still sounding pretty dejected post-game, like saying, it wasn't a good road trip and it was frustrating. Like this is the kind of thing that can 3 games to the finish line here, almost certainly going to the playoffs, but not 100% locked in yet. It's like this can be like a really nice injection of energy, of skill, of youth, of all of it. Just something to lift them up. Tomorrow, Thursday's practice is at Warrior at 11 a.m. It's so open to the public. I know it's a school day, but or is April vacation going on? I don't even know when that is, but
None of us
I'm guessing it's going to be pretty crowded. I'm guessing a lot of people are going to find a way to get there for that practice. So like even something like that, where you're going to have energy at practice that might not normally be there on a Thursday in early April. Like I think there's even just all that stuff can help. And then obviously if he plays the way that he's capable of playing, we know there's going to be, some hiccups along the way. We know Hagens isn't going to come in and dominate immediately. Like, let's not set any expectations too high, but he can definitely be an upgrade over what they've been rotating through. Your Reichel and Asimon and Steves. No guarantee of that, but he could be, which would be a really nice help for this team, a really nice boost these final 3 games and into the playoffs.
Yeah. And also, Brian, I don't think we really answered too much this question as well. Like where should Hagens play?
Yeah.
Like Scott, you listed where keep him work. Who called the new kids line? I don't even know. Can't just call the kids line now. It has to have its own something else.
New kids works. That's a good name for a Boston line.
New kids line. Okay. All right. Great. coined. You're welcome. But no, so what I will say is that's an option, right? But there are other options. And the original one when he was just finishing out his college career, pre us knowing he was going to start in Providence, this was pre signing the ATO. I had gone on several shows and said he would probably be a good fit with Elias Lindholm and Morgan Geekie if they wanted to go that route. I could see reasons why I could see that combination having something there. Obviously, with the timing of it being right after Geekie has a hat trick set up by Pasternak on the 2 first goals, probably not the right time to go there, but it is an option. Sturm's moved the lines around quite a bit the last few games. So we're going to see different iterations, and we're probably going to see both of those things in the early goings of him getting called up. But I had originally mentioned that felt like the line he was on in college. Elias Lindholm has some similarities to Andre Gasso. Morgan Geekie has some similarities to Oscar Fleming. That was the line at Boston College. So, and it was all guys with really high IQs. And I think Morgan Geekie has a really high hockey IQ as well. Do you think he would be put with Pasternak to start?
No, I'd be surprised. I think that the lines that Scott said he expects to see, which is Minton, Husnudinov, and Hagens, I have a Scott McLaughlin, Mystic, Mac hunch that would be a really good line because I think there's a lot of maturity and skill and speed and smarts. I think those 3 would actually complement each other really well. And at the same time, I still don't love the Lindholm, Geekie, Pasternak line. I still would like to see maybe Minton with Pasternak and Geekie, and then maybe you have Husnudinov, Elias Lindholm, and Hagens. But I have this, on the one hand, I could see Elias Lindholm being a safe line mate to break James Hagens in with. On the other hand, I can see Elias Lindholm's lack of speed and playmaking not jive with what James can do. So I don't know. There's a part of me that says, you know what? I think the Minton, Husnudinov, Hagens line could be really fun, responsible, and skilled. And you know what? You're paying Elias Lindholm to be who he is, which is on top 6. Then let them do what they're paid to do. And if they fail, they fail. But I wouldn't mind seeing the new kid line. And then everybody says Geekie, Lindholm, Pasternak, let those guys cook. Let them then. Okay, they had a decent game against Carolina. Obviously, it was more Geekie and Pasternak than it was Elias Lindholm. I'll give Elias Lindholm credit on the tip-in hat-trick goal by Geekie. That was a well-executed offensive zone shift by that whole line, himself included. And I believe in a defensive zone, he did get a secondary assist on what was Geekie's first goal, even though it was kind of passed from the Bruins on blue line out, unless I'm missing that.
No, but that was a nice play though to get it up to Pasternak. You had to win a battle on the boards.
Yeah.
Like kind of angled off the Hurricanes player. I don't remember who it was, but like took a good route, body position, protected the puck, and then sent it up to Pasternak.
So I like the lines that you guys are kind of saying. Like give the veteran core, give them their leash. Lindholm, Geekie, Pasternak, they had some really strong chemistry at the end of last year. They've had their moments this year. We know the second line's been fantastic all year. And like I said, I really like the configuration of what would be a Minton, Husnudinov, and Hagens, because I think they would complement each other really well. And Fraser Minton might be 21, but in terms of defensive responsibilities out there and his details, I think he plays like he's 25. And Husnudinov is 23, same thing. And we all know Hagens, maturity-wise and hockey IQ-wise, is greater than that of a typical 19-year-old. So I think that, yeah, it's a young line. But as far as young lines go, I actually think that they're pretty mature, as you could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just want to say this because I've seen some of these comments on Twitter. It's not going to be on the 4th line. I saw some people say put Husnudinov and let him play up. I think 4th line stays the same. 2nd line stays the same. Tinkering comes with the other 6 pieces. So that's Elias Lindholm, Pasternak, Geekie, Minton, Husnudinov, and now Hagens, which leads me to, I wanted to get this because it's another logistical thing, right? And Scott, you can help us here. They don't have to send anyone down, right? They can have as many people as long as it fits under the cap.
Correct. Now, they do have to make a decision on Reichel because he reached the max on his emergency recall. So they have to decide if they're going to convert that to a regular recall and keep him in Boston or send him back to Providence. I guess we'll find out, obviously nothing's been announced yet. We'll find out if he's at practice, if he plays another game. But that would be the only thing. Other than that, they do not need to send anyone down to make room. There's no roster limit after the trade deadline, and the Bruins have cap space to work with.
And I feel like they're going to keep Reichel up. But would he have to clear waivers on an emergency since it's an emergency call up?
No, but if they convert it to a regular recall, then he would.
Okay, so I guess there's a little bit on those guys, and then Asamont, Steve, like these guys would just all become healthy scratches as long as Hagens is playing well. I mean, they could come back in the second that he's not. But I'm assuming Saturday, these guys are healthy scratches, unless maybe there's another injury to a fourth line guy that we don't know about and someone comes in there. But so I wanted to get that in, what happens next for those three.
Bridget, I'm glad you said that because he still has to go out there and perform and keep his spot in the lineup. Just like Reichel, just like Asamont, just like Steves. I just wanted him to be an option. I want him to be one of the guys that they can go to if to not have him as an option, to me, I wouldn't have liked that. But yes, now that he's an option, you don't just keep that job. Just like Steves and the others, you have to outperform the guy next to you. And so if James doesn't, do enough to stay in the lineup, then you have those guys that can go in. But as long as he's part of that potential rotation, just like anybody else who doesn't perform well enough in the lineup, like your job's not secure. I mean, a couple guys' jobs are obviously, but you know what I mean. So you're right. You're right to bring that up. It's not over now that he's here. Now it starts.
But because we're gonna try not to go as long as a regular full podcast, but I do think it hit me like as we were recording that this might get more viewers and listeners than usual, because obviously it is a very exciting moment for Bruins fans, and I'm sure obviously everyone knows who James Hagens is, but maybe people haven't been following super closely, what he did at BC or what he did down in the AHL. And might just be playing catch up now. So I think it might be worthwhile to tell people like what kind of player James Hagens is and kind of what to expect here. Bridget obviously saw a ton of him covering Hockey East. I think we've all seen quite a bit of him both at BC and in Providence. I think the first thing like that's gonna jump out to people is his skating. Like he is a great skater, both speed wise and in terms of agility, quick cuts, cutbacks, entering the offensive zone. Just able to slow the game down and speed it up to create space for himself to open up passing lanes. I think he's a very smart player in terms of how he sees the ice as a playmaker. He's a good passer. And he really developed his goal scoring this year as well. Like that was something I think at his freshman year at BC, the 2024-25 season, it was one of the knocks on him that scouts had was they wanted to see more goal scoring from him. Well, this year at BC, he finished top 10 in the country in goal scoring, in addition to total points and points per game. He really developed a one-timer on the power play in particular, but also just looking for more opportunities to take his shot, which I think is a good shot. So there's a lot of encouraging development this year at BC.
Yeah, no, exactly. He's a very smart player. I don't think anybody is expecting him to be a savior for this Boston Bruins team, and certainly not right now. But he's in my opinion, he has the skating, the edge work, the hockey IQ, and the skill set to continue his development at the next level. He is still a developing player. Just because he's at the NHL level now, that doesn't mean anybody thinks he's a finished product. Nobody makes their NHL debut as a finished product. So I just think that there are certain players, certain prospects that have XYZ skill sets and intangibles that they can continue their development and bring it to the next level. And that to me is who he is. And again, I feel like a lot of times with Hagens, people are talking about him like he's this fresh-faced 18-year-old who was just drafted like 8 months ago. When he was drafted, he was turning 19 like 4 months later. He turns 20 years old in November of 2026. He's got 2 years of NCAA college hockey under his belt, right? And now 6 professional games with Providence. He's not this. Every prospect to an extent is raw when you make your NHL debut, but he has more experience, I think, than people are giving him credit for. It's just that he had already had a year of NCAA hockey under his belt before being drafted. I think that kind of people maybe lose sight of that, So in NCAA hockey, I think it's the best developmental league, amateur developmental league that's out there when you consider the skill that's there now, but also he was 17, 18 years old playing against 23, 4, 5-year-olds his freshman year, true freshman year, let alone his sophomore year where he's a little bit older, but still playing against older guys, and now in Providence for 6 games. So it's not like he walked across the stage 6 months ago, just turning 18, and now he's playing for the Bruins. Like he's taken the necessary steps as well. Of course, he wasn't in Providence for a half a season, but besides that, like he's developing. He's continuing his development, and I think this is the appropriate step now.
Yeah, I'd like to say what can he bring to the lineup? Well, he brings another weapon on the power play. I think that's, one of the main things people might notice him do first is the way that he's used on the power play. I think he'll probably go on to power play 2 if you want to keep that second line plus Pasta top power play unit together, which I don't see there being a reason for you to break them up, which is fine. I mean, there's still great players he'll be on that second power play unit with. He would be on there with Geeky, probably. Pasternak stays out there for both usually. Elias Lindholm, maybe Fraser Minton. Those are all guys that he could be out there with. And would be a really good power play unit in and of itself. I saw Robert Chalmers tweet out a video of this past road trip. Providence was up in upstate New York, and it was the good moments from Hagens on the power plays that they had. He had helped with entries. He helped with facilitating the puck. Like, he moves the puck well. He's quick. He makes good decisions. He sets himself up for his own shots a lot of times on the power play. So he's a weapon there that they can use. And that's kind of an easy landing spot as well, because obviously you're not normally defending on the power play unless they make some more turnovers like they did the last few games. But that's I think where we're going to notice him most early on. His puck carrying, his puck handling, very, very good for someone his age. And I really do think people are going to be surprised by, though he's a smaller guy, that's been the knock on him. He's a smaller prospect. He doesn't get bumped off pucks that easily. And that, there's a lot of practice that is involved with that, and strength training and so many things when it comes to shielding pucks and just using your body the right way. It's that he's been able to learn and kind of compensate for that. Obviously, the NHL is going to be different. You're going to go against somebody like Delorier, like they did last game in Carolina. You're going to go against those bigger guys that are,
Well, he will torch Delorier if he's matched up against him.
Yeah, he'll outrun him.
Skate circles around him.
No, but I'm talking about in the corners. I'm not talking about in open ice. Like, I'm talking about, he's going to have to deal with bigger bodied guys than he has in the past. Though they do exist in the AHL, obviously. So he's been dealing with that a little bit.
They exist at every level. And NCAA, it exists everywhere. And,
he's playing with Letourneau. He's playing with the big guy in hockey.
But when people mention his size, and Bridget, you're not guilty of this right now, but it's like he's not Nathan Gerby out there. He's not Sergei Samsonov, or Marat Husadinov. What is he, 5'11"? Like,
still much taller than me. So it's just, to me, I don't think of him as short, but
yeah. But
I am, one thing I'm interested in, and I'm not gonna ask him because I always feel weird asking this stuff, but so going into the season, Hagens was listed at I think 5'11", like 194 or 195. And he'd even said at development camp over the summer that he was up over 190. And then I noticed on the Providence Bruins website, he's listed at 177. And I don't know if that's just like not an updated weight or if it is updated and he lost weight during the season. I like it's just like a random thing I found interesting, which could potentially matter, I guess, right? Like
Somebody asked Patra. Remember, someone asked Patra at the beginning of this season.
Yeah, it's always a fair. I mean, it's always a fair question because like it's just an important part of hockey development, especially with prospects. I just always feel weird asking guys like, "Hey, so how much do you weigh right now?"
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm certainly not asking that. I'll tell you that right now. So that is not a question that I would ever ask a single soul. But
so you're not gonna start with, "Hey, you're welcome. This is all me. Also, how much do you weigh?"
And how much can you bench, broke? Do you even lift? But no, it's not gonna happen. I do have a lot of questions though, and I know Sturm will be available. I'm guessing Sweeney won't be available again. So that that's a little bit off the table. But we can ask Sturm what were the conversations that were had, like organizationally with Mougenel, with Sweeney, like all of them collaborating. Maybe get a little bit of insight from him on what those thoughts were. But I know that Sweeney and others in the organization have been watching and going to Providence, I'm not sure if they went on the road. I didn't see any reporting that, but they could have easily been there to keep an eye on him. And according to when I talked to Ryan Mougenel, they're in constant communication with Ryan Mougenel, with Sturm and Sweeney, all in the same group, constant communication. So that's all what's involved. Any other thoughts, guys, on what you think he can help with?
Well, I mean, I just think he has the ability to make plays that not a lot of players can make. I mean, his vision is superb, right? His playmaking. So I think and again, I'm not talking necessarily Saturday or the first 4 games or even this, like just throughout the course of his career, he's a playmaker, right? There are certain guys that can make special plays more frequently than others. So I mean, but yeah, I mean, you guys hit it out everything so far. So I did have one question for you guys though. We've all been kind of going back and forth for a few weeks now. What should they do? What are they doing? Do you think he's known since signing his ATO that there was a strong likelihood outside of him just completely having his game go to hell with Providence that like he would probably get this chance this year? You think he and Bridget, you were down beneath the concourse that time. You saw them talking. So let me know.
Calling me.
Yes, Bridge, go ahead.
I asked him this. So after that first practice that he had in Providence, I said, did anyone in the organization give you a timeline of what what they are expecting or like what they're hoping? And he said, I just have to prove myself. I just have to prove myself. Like he kept saying that. That was the message. Like he didn't give a lot on he didn't say, they said if I do this, this, and this, like I get called up. Like I'm not sure they said much, honestly, to him, or maybe he just wasn't willing to share too much. But he just kept talking about, I got to prove it. He never mentioned Boston. Like he didn't mention getting called up really. Like he just talked about focusing on Providence, which is, that's what the guys say.
To your point, yeah. I mean, he wouldn't say anything otherwise anyway, I mean, yeah, I don't think Don guaranteed anything, but I'm curious if he was like, James, if you play your game, like we'll call you up in a few weeks.
That's what I think it was. Yeah. I think if I had to guess what the conversation was, it was, hey, if you do what we're asking of you and you play well and you learn what you need to learn and you put in the work, like we'll give you a shot. We're not going to sit here and guarantee it, but like there's a path here. It's not our goal to just bury you in the AHL for the rest of the season, but like you got to take care of your business first. That is what I would guess, is that it was left open-ended and that, the opportunity was there of, hey, yes, we could use you in the NHL this season, but we're not going to guarantee it. but like if you do what you have to do, you know, that could be there. And that takes like a certain level of trust, right? Like because it's one thing to tell James Hagens that and tell his agent that, but they have to believe you. Like they have to think like, oh, okay, the path for me to play games in the NHL this season actually is there, even though I'm only signing an ATO for now. And that takes a lot of trust, right? Because prospects have been lied to before. I'm not even saying like in the Bruins, I'm just saying in general, like it happens where a team tells a prospect one thing and then, oh yeah, I know we told you that, but we're actually not going to do that right now. Like that's tough because in writing, Hagens has no guarantee of any of that happening, right?
This was the statement, by the way. I put the statement up from the original ATO signing. This is a statement from Sweeney that we got at like 11 something at night the day that he signed the ATO, where it says keeping all options open. It wasn't specific, but it was, you know, wanting to get him immediate pro experience in Providence and then keeping all options open. No timeline really given. But I just wanted to throw the statement back up because I already had it typed out. So
yeah, and I don't think there ever was a timeline, but there were certain windows that, and we kind of have, if people went back through past podcasts or have just been listening, like we kind of touched on them every time they got to one of those windows, right? Like it was, hey, maybe it's right before the road trip, or maybe it's that Dallas game at home where you get them a home debut and then you go on the road for 4 games. This right now was kind of like the last natural window, right? They just wrapped up that road trip. They're going to have 2 practices. They're off game wise until Saturday. There are still 3 games left in the regular season. So he's not jumping right into the playoffs. Like this was a pretty natural window to do this, because if it wasn't now, then you're looking at, is it before the very last game of the regular season? Is it in the playoffs, or is it not at all? So, you know, the reason I had a hunch when we recorded this morning,
let us know,
was just from looking at that and being like, well, if it's not now, it might not be at all. So
Donnie texted you. Donnie shot you a text. Scotty,
oh yeah,
keep your eyes on the horizon here.
All the time. Yeah, he's just texting me every day.
Do you think, guys, and I think obviously clinching, being a 99% chance of making the playoffs is also a factor in this, obviously. Do you think if they had clinched sooner, we would have seen him sooner? To be clear, they haven't clinched officially yet, but do you think
maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the other thing initially, right? It was like every game felt like a must win, and it's like a real pressure cooker to throw a kid into. So, which is why like I was in favor of him starting in Providence, because that's tough, and they're not there yet, right? Like they might need one more win out of these last 3, but there is a little less pressure now than when BC season first ended, and it's like, oh my God, this game at Detroit is biggest game of the year. This game at Buffalo is the biggest game of the year. And it's like, now the Bruins have they got through that. They racked up just about enough points to get in and are now like right on that doorstep where they really should be in.
And listen, not to put any pressure on him, but even if they did need a game, I know he hasn't played yet in the league, but I have more confidence in him making one play to help out offensively than Steve's, Asimont, or Reichel. And I know that those guys have had their own respective careers at different times and different levels that they produced, but I just haven't seen enough from Steve's since maybe sometime in early January. You know, I haven't seen. I mean, Asimont's been okay like this year. He's been okay. Reichel is still, you know, he's still trying to develop in his own right. So even if they needed a win to win a game, I have more confidence in Hagens' ability to make one play, make one pass that Steve's can't or Asimont can't. So even then, if you're gonna lose with the most talent on the ice.
Well, to even just like counter my own last question, like, was it like if they had clinched sooner, would he have come up? I'm not sure the answer is yes, because I like the pressure wouldn't be there, because I think one of the main reasons he's getting called up is because they're struggling. So like if they're playing well, they would have like if they clinched, it would be because they were playing well. Well, then does he not get called up at all yet because there's no reason to tinker? Or is this more of a force of Reichel, Asima, and Steves? They're just not running with this job, and they need a boost, right? Like what we're talking about was losing helpful to him coming up. I think the answer is yes, more so than if they had clinched. So
the vibes are low with this team right now, and if you look at the whole season, I don't think the vibe should be low. Nobody really expected them to be where they are right now. So if they can have a big picture perspective of their season, maybe it could change their spirits. But because they're in the here and now, they're going through a 4-game losing streak. They're a little bit frustrated. Pasternak and Geeky last night after the game against Carolina, they both sounded very, very down in the dumps. And Morgan Geeky just snapped a 17-game goal drought with a hat trick. You would have thought that the drought continued on to 18 games. And I just think that this team, they've played above their skis a lot this year. I think the schedule has been demanding for everybody around the league, but the Bruins have had a tough schedule lately. And I just feel like they're running on fumes right now. And you don't want to be running on fumes heading into the postseason. This could lift some spirits. This does give you a jolt. I just think that I think this benefits everybody. I think it does. I don't think there's much wrong with this move at all. Even worst case, Hagens gets experience, knows what to do this offseason, knows how to prepare. So it's all good in my mind.
we're all happy. We're all happy.
And by the way, Toronto right now, their odds are seventh overall. So if they finish
next year,
if the Leafs finish 7th or 6th, best odds of winning the lottery, it's pretty much they either win the lottery or Boston gets their pick, because they don't really have any chance of finishing 4th or 5th. So right now, even that's looking pretty good.
That's good news. Everything's coming up. Well, like I said, the internet's having an interesting day. So I mean, for the Bruins, things are going good according to plan. But yeah, so opening day, we debuted this, and we will retire this. I think I can just delete this, but it was worth making. But I'm going to officially. What
if he's hold on.
Okay,
what if he starts next season in Providence?
All right, fine. I'll leave it. But you just jinxed it, Scott. Did you see something else in your crystal ball?
No. I'm just saying. I think I think Hagens call up corner can call it a season.
I'm over it.
I don't think we should fully retire it and hang the banner on the rafters.
I was literally had my finger on the delete button, and you just made me not. So, but. We better not do this again next year. Okay, I'm done. This phase can be done, hopefully. So we will see him Saturday. Well, we'll see him tomorrow. We'll talk to him tomorrow. We'll report back. Are we still planning on doing a Friday podcast?
Yeah, either Friday or maybe even Thursday after practice. But I know we teased the mailbag, so we'll definitely answer mailbag questions. But obviously we will
now.
We will start with whatever happens at practice, where Hagens is lining up, what he says after, what Sturm says. So we'll have a full breakdown of everything.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out.
Definitely let us know what you think in the comments here on YouTube. I mean, are you pro ELC signing? Are you still anti because you wanted them in Province all year and didn't want the rush? Or let us know, and we can definitely do an episode Friday.
I'm gonna guess this is one of those things where even the people who wanted to keep him in Providence are gonna be in favor of this now, right?
Yeah.
If we did put up the poll of is this the right decision, I think it's 99% yes.
Well, our highest pro Sweeney, our highest pro anything poll was on draft night. We put out the poll.
Oh, that's right.
And it was 95% happy with the decision to draft Hagens and 5% not. It was honestly, it might have even been higher than 95%. It was almost unanimous. So I feel like that this poll would probably be close to that. But yeah, we're happy here. We 100% of this podcast gives it 2 thumbs up. So.
Alrighty. Well, that'll do it. Thank you for listening to us twice in one day. To some of you, that's a task, huh?
I'm not even wearing the same thing anymore. I took a nap. So
yeah, we will have another episode this week, probably on Friday, and enjoy James Hagens' debut, presumably on Saturday, and we'll see how he and the team responds to this development. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.